Yes, I do know Diana. Diana's so I will find out the truth of Diana's. I don't know.
Good afternoon. We're about to start in a few moments. Good afternoon. My name is Russell Gross. I'm the Executive Director here at the Black Cultural Center, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to this space. We'd like to first start off by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, past, present, and future, and we are respectful of their contributions. Today we're gathered here for a special announcement about an amazing project. The African Nova Scotia Seafarers Project will be a vital component to continuing to uncover an important part of African Nova Scotia history and culture. The history of Black people in Nova Scotia goes back to the 16th century, well over 400 years ago, with four major migrations, that being the Black Loyalists, Jamaican Maroons, migrants of the War of 1812, and the later Caribbean migration. Those migrations created 52 historic communities that have called Nova Scotia home. Much of the mainstream narrative hints to seafaring heritage when we think of the legacy of Matthew DaCosta or able seaman William Hall. However, were you aware that in the United States, before the turn of the 20th century, Blacks in seafaring roles made up the highest percentage of workers? We feel that this kinship and the strong kinship that we have in our heritage with the United States, that Nova Scotia's rich Black history, that it's more than plausible that that same heritage is here in Nova Scotia. This project will endeavor to do research and develop aspects of history when it comes to seafaring in all roles, whether it's shipbuilding, whether it's food processing, whether it's anything that's in the nautical theme. We've already heard some remarkable stories at the start of this project, and this project wouldn't be possible without the support of the Government of Nova Scotia or our partners. And so the partnership is between the Lunenburg Fisheries Museum, it's the Black Loyalist Heritage Center, and the Black Cultural Center. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that today. When we think of the remarkable history of seafaring, we look at Jamaican-born civil rights icon Marcus Garvey, who founded the United Negro Improvement Association in 1914, which helped to foster a legacy of civil rights. A local chapter of the UNIA is right here in this province. It was started in Cape Breton, in Glace Bay in 1918, as a cultural, political, and economical development organization of people of African descent. When you think of Garvey, Garvey was one of the leaders of the Black-owned and operated Black Star Line, which was a ship line that provided travel to people of African descent worldwide. And so that's a remarkable history that many people didn't even know about that fact and the connection to here in the Maritimes. So without further ado, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our first speaker for this announcement, my good friend, the Honorable Steve Craig, who is the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Russell. And yeah, we go back a ways. And it's a wonderful friendship and working in the community that we've developed over many years. And it's nice to see you without a mask on. Who is that? I learned more in the last 2 minutes of your introduction about the history of African Nova Scotians in the Maritime region and seafaring than I knew before I got here today. And that's unfortunate. And that's why I'm really excited as the minister responsible for fisheries and agriculture to be here today on behalf of my colleague, the Honorable Pat Dunn, who is the Minister of Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage, and the Minister of African Nova Scotian Affairs. Nova Scotia is committed to finding solutions to improving equity and inclusion for everyone. And it must begin with understanding history and sharing the stories and listening to the experiences of others in order to make lasting positive change, which is indeed needed. Now, the people of African descent have contributed greatly to all aspects of Nova Scotia's community and society for more than 400 years. And in particular in the marine industry, again, I'm going to be extremely excited in the coming time to find out even more so on how deep that is. So as a government, we have an important role to play. The role is to listen and to learn and to be supportive to the African Nova Scotia communities across the province, as well as continuing to learn about the deep history that's here and which probably hasn't been documented as often and as deeply and as deliberately as it is now. So this is everybody's responsibility. And with the direction and advice of the African Nova Scotia community members and organizations, Associate Deputy Minister Dwayne Provo, and all of the ANSA African Nova Scotia Affairs staff, we are moving toward and in the direction of improving equity and inclusion. I've got notes here that says some of the recent work that's been done, and I'm going to read it for you. It says, there's been an investment of $1.7 million in the Richard Preston Center of Excellence in Halifax's North End. And there's been an investing of an additional $3 million to the Jordantown Acadiaville Conway Betterment Association Center of Excellence in Digby. And expanding the African Nova Scotia Affairs regional offices into communities in Glasgow, Digby, and the Preston area. And we're continuing to do the government's Count Us In action plan in response to the International Decade for People of African Descent, and supporting initiatives that promote African Nova Scotia heritage. And that's one of the reasons we're here today. And if I haven't said it earlier, I'm really tickled pink to be here on this one. You know, there's not been anything I've sat in as a minister for some of my colleagues that has excited me more than to be here for this announcement, truly. So what I'd like to do now is to pass it over to Dwayne Provo, and Dwayne is our Associate Deputy Minister for African Nova Scotia Affairs. He's going to make some more announcements on this exciting news, and I've known Dwayne for a number of years as well. But yeah, maybe if you want to talk one-on-one later, we can do that. But I just can't express, Russell, how pleased I am to be here with you today. And thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Minister Craig indicated, a lot of us have been around here for a while, and I've seen the different renditions of what this center looks like over the last, I don't want to say how many years. I try to look a little bit younger than I actually am, but it's been significant. It's been decades. And the staff here have done an incredible job, and some of them have been here for just the amount of time that I'm speaking of. And they've been able to do that. And with the support that they need to make that happen, those are the things that African Nova Scotian Affairs is here to try to support and try to do to make sure that we have that kind of recognition in our community for the incredible history that our community actually has to share with the province. But even though we talk about that and sharing it broadly with the province, it's also important that even within our African Nova Scotian communities that we know what our history actually is as well. That's why I'm so excited today about this announcement. As the minister indicated, for some of us here in the room, hearing what the executive director, what Russell indicated earlier, was new to us. And we all know a little bit, and I can't say we all, because a few of us know a little bit about William Hall, and we know about some of the individuals, or seafaring individuals, who actually get a little bit more notoriety, but about some of the other pieces, that's what this is about. It's an educational piece for us. And with that being said, it's important that we understand that history, because that history often helps to shape some of the future for us as well. And that's the important piece, future within the seafaring industry. And so at this point, thank you, Minister Craig. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, as we know, African Nova Scotian history is filled with achievement, accomplishments, as well as resiliency. And with more than 52 African Nova Scotian communities making those unique contributions. I cannot express the significance or the importance of learning about this history and about the Black role models across all industries who serve as inspirations to us, both today as well as into the future. It's important that we live in a province where we have museums that try to reflect the important cultural diversity of this province. And there's always much more to learn and much more to know. And that's why announcements like today are so significant. Since taking on the role as Associate Deputy Minister of African Nova Scotian Affairs within the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage, one of my priorities is to better improve the service as well as to promote the needs of our community. And as an African Nova Scotian born individual raised just kilometers away from here in North Preston, I know both personally as well as professionally the contribution that all of our communities make to the fabric of our province. This also includes our contribution to the sea. And that's why it's so important that we share that beautiful history. And with that being said, the province is very pleased to announce today that it will be investing $150,000 to support the African Nova Scotian Seafaring project. And we're excited to support this great initiative because it allows us to be able to expand the horizons for our African Nova Scotian history, but also for our youth, and also for Nova Scotia as a whole in terms of where we've been, but also where we can go. You know, I want to thank the staff at the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, the Black Loyalist Heritage Society, as well as the Black Cultural Center of Nova Scotia, and also the African Nova Scotian community members for making this collaborative project a reality. I also want to thank Minister Craig for joining us today for this very important announcement. All of you out there today who are watching, I want to also, since I'm getting all the thanks out now, I'm going to say thank you to you for joining in either in person here and or virtually. This is a very historic day for us when it comes to our seafaring history. This exhibit, we hope, will have the ability to inspire, but also touch folks from one end of the province to the other, and we're going to also try to make sure that that happens with the hard work of those folks that are involved. And so with that being said, once again, thank you everybody, and can't wait, just like the rest of you, to see this exhibit in the next year. All right, over to you, Russell. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Associate Deputy Minister Prevost and Minister Craig. It's very impactful to have government support for a project such as this. You know, the project was several years in the making, and it is a demonstration of what true community partnerships can be about, whether it's multiple museums working together or it's government and community working together to share our shared history. When we look at the history of people of African descent here in this province, the amazing fact about it is that it's a history that is still evolving. There are still things today that we're learning that are new, and that is so interesting. And it's great to have organizations that can showcase it, organizations such as the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, the Black Loyalists, and the Black Cultural Center. So without further ado, I'd like to talk a little bit about the partners that we have involved in this and turn it over to them to talk a little bit about the project. So the person I'm going to introduce next is from the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, none other than Adrian Morrison, who is a curator of collections for about the past 5 years or so. He's been working within the Nova Scotia heritage industry for well over a decade, and he also has worked in Newfoundland and Ontario, so well-rounded individual for sure. Adrian has a master's in archaeology from the Memorial University, where he also is currently completing his PhD. Adrian.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for the introduction, Russell, and for welcoming us all to the center. What a fantastic place to gather. And thank you all so much for coming and joining us and being here, both online and in person. As Russell mentioned, my name is Adrian Morrison, and I'm the curator of collections at the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic in Lunenburg. I also curate the Nova Scotia Museum's Provincial Fisheries Collection. I must say, it is a true pleasure and an honor for me to be here with you today and to be given the opportunity to introduce this incredibly important and exciting project. As we know, people of African descent have been living and working in Nova Scotia for over 400 years and have been involved in virtually every aspect of marine industry, as fishers and processors, shippers and sailors, and shipbuilders and navigators. There were enslaved Africans working in Louisbourg's 18th century fishing stations. Black loyalists turned to the sea for survival when left with few resources, and whole communities have both geographically and economically centered around the sea. Still, the experiences and the contributions of African Nova Scotian seafarers and their coastal communities have remained absent from most comprehensive bodies of research regarding maritime industry. This has to change. Recognizing this inequity, we are announcing today that the Black Loyalist Heritage Centre, the Black Cultural Centre for Nova Scotia, and the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic are collaborating on a new ongoing project aimed at elevating the stories and experiences of African Nova Scotians and their connections to the sea. This collaboration will culminate in a province-wide traveling exhibit showcasing this important and underrepresented aspect of Nova Scotian history. The project will build on both the Black Loyalist Heritage Society and the Black Cultural Centre's dedication to researching and disseminating the history and stories of Black Nova Scotians, and it dovetails with ongoing efforts at the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic to interpret Nova Scotia's fishing heritage through a more accurately diverse and inclusive lens. By working in direct partnership with each other and with African Nova Scotian organizations and communities, we hope to address critical research gaps, bringing greater equity to the history of an industry that is so intrinsically connected to this province's cultural identity. The exhibit will open in Birchtown at the Black Loyalist Heritage Centre, travel to destinations in the Annapolis Valley, northern Nova Scotia, and Cape Breton, before coming back here to the Black Cultural Centre in HRM. It will then ultimately close at the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic in Lunenburg, where the content will remain long-term for both our museum visitors and researchers. As we work in the coming months to confirm our additional host locations, we will prioritize venues that are in or near historically African Nova Scotian communities. And we hope to work closely with local leaders, knowledge keepers, and interested individuals to develop curated content directly related to the host community's immediate surroundings. This is a part of the exhibit that I'm particularly excited about personally, and it's a departure from a lot of other traveling exhibits that are developed entirely by one organization before ever reaching out to any possible hosts. We plan to take a more community-driven approach. This program is centered around African Nova Scotian communities and narratives, and throughout the program we hope to work alongside or behind African Nova Scotians to document and interpret their stories and to provide platforms for them to share their history with both their own communities and the larger Nova Scotian population. We hope the approaches we take will allow for a sense of local ownership over the project, and that our work creates new opportunities for communities to showcase the regional stories to a larger audience. It is important to us that the exhibit also be hosted in rural areas to further support greater equity across the culture and heritage sectors. The project will cover topics within a broad time span, ranging from the earliest days of Black seafaring in Nova Scotia until the present day. We are interested in learning more about men like John Farmer, a descendant of enslaved Africans who made his living fishing on the offshore banks, or the McCarthy family, renowned shipbuilders from the town of Shelburne. But we will also consider the nuances of intersectionality, and will interpret the experiences of a multiplicity of individuals. While we intend to highlight the stories of people who built vessels, owned them, and worked aboard them, we also want to showcase the contributions of those who worked within associated industries. This could include, for example, the women and girls who worked in shellfish processing facilities around Digby, or those who were employed within Canzo's fish plants, as well as the sawmill workers from Hammond's Plains, whose workdays were spent manufacturing fish boxes. We will explore the broader implications of these industries and their effects on families and communities. For example, while we're interested in the experiences of sailors, we also want to know what it was like for their families. What did it mean to be an African Nova Scotian woman responsible for single-handedly running a household while their partner was away at sea for weeks or months at a time? More broadly, we will explore more about the cultures, traditions, and general rhythms and routines within seaside communities like DeLaps Cove and Africville. People of African descent have participated in and contributed to seafaring within this province for centuries, but the current research and narratives available do not fully reflect this. By compiling and presenting our research through a traveling exhibition, we will bring forward the experiences, accomplishments, and contributions of African Nova Scotians, showcasing their stories across the province and fostering new conversations. We hope this exhibit will be a chance to celebrate the diversity within Nova Scotia's seafaring past and provide a more inclusive and equitable understanding of the province's maritime history. We are deeply grateful to the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage for recognizing the importance of this project and for the generous support they've provided through the Cultural Innovation Fund. Thank you as well to all of the African Nova Scotian organizations and community members who have already met with us, listened to our plans, and expressed their ideas and support for the project. And also thank you so much to our partners at the Black Willows Heritage Center and the Black Cultural Center. And thanks again to all of you for joining us today. We sure hope you're as excited about this project as we are. Thanks.
Thank you, Adrian. That was impactful, and one of the things that is going to be a really bright spot about this project is the community collaboration. And so for all of you that are watching out there online and those that are here, if you have stories that you want to share and artifacts and items about seafaring associated with African Nova Scotians, please check out our website. You'll find out a little bit more information about that later, about the website that we have up for this project. Another crucial partner in this project is the Black Loyalist Heritage Society, an organization that we are partnered with and have worked with over the years. And so glad today to have with us Braden Shepwin, who is the Program Outreach Coordinator of the Black Loyalist Heritage Center, a role which he began in 2019. Prior to that, he was a summer interpretive guide with the center for about 5 years. A true fixture of the organization. I don't think there's a picture of the organization without you in it. Since coming on as Program Outreach Coordinator, Braden has assisted in bringing new experiences to the center.
Thank you, Russell. And before I begin, I'd just like to take a moment on behalf of myself, the staff and board of Black Loyalist Heritage Center and Society to thank you for partnering with us on this, both the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic and the Black Cultural Center. And we'd also like to thank, of course, the generous support of the province through Communities, Cultures, Tourism, and Heritage for their generous support in helping us to bring this project and exhibit to fruition. So we've been working on this, I think Adrian and I have been working on this a little over a year now, so it's really, it's exciting to finally be able to share with everybody what we've been doing. So I know we've all heard the famous statistic about in Nova Scotia, you're never more than 60 kilometers from the ocean, and because of that fact, there's almost no Nova Scotian who doesn't have some sort of connection to the many facets of our marine industry. Maybe your great-grandfather was a boat builder, or you come from a long line of lobster fishers, or maybe you yourself work in a fish processing plant. So our province is extremely rich in maritime history, and we're also extremely rich in Black history. There's over 50 Black communities found across our province, many of them dating back hundreds of years, including Birchtown, where our center is. These communities, their people and stories are key to the cultural and historic mosaic that makes up Nova Scotia. And despite this, African Nova Scotians and their stories and their communities have largely been absent from the narrative around our seafaring history. So as we've outlined today, the African Nova Scotian Seafaring Project aims to change this, but it's not something that we can do alone. A cornerstone of this project has been mentioned, will be the outreach and engagement with African Nova Scotian communities and people living within African Nova Scotian communities. So through the early planning stages of the project, we've engaged with several individuals, community groups, and organizations to pitch our idea of this project and to kind of get discussions rolling. And in those discussions, we found that almost everybody has some piece of the history that they can share with us. So despite years of being omitted from the narrative, the history's not lost. It's very much alive, it's still there. It's been passed down in communities and families through oral histories, documents, artifacts, and photographs. And with that being said, a key part of this project will be the involvement with communities. So we're asking you to please reach out and connect with us if you feel like you have something that you can contribute to the project. We need to hear your voices. We want to hear your stories, your family stories, your community stories. If you have an artifact or a photograph that connects to African Nova Scotian seafaring, we would love to see it and potentially include it in the exhibit. Every piece that we have helps to strengthen the exhibit and create a more accurate reflection of the hundreds of years of Black seafaring in Nova Scotia that we're looking to tell through this project. And aside from community input, we want to ensure accessibility to the exhibit and the stories, particularly for African Nova Scotians. So as Adrian had mentioned, we're looking for hosting venues in or near historically Black communities across the province. So these venues don't necessarily have to be museums. They could be libraries, community halls, recreation centers, really any public venue that has space and would be willing to host the exhibit with us. So not only would this be an opportunity to share this important piece of history across the province, but it will also be a way to bring a high-quality museum exhibit to more rural areas and ensure that everyone in Nova Scotia gets to learn this piece of history. So these hosting venues, again, as has been mentioned, would display the kind of broader information that's included in the overall exhibit, but also hopefully include site-specific content related to those communities. So as we've said, there's a lot of history in the many different communities that are found around the province. So there's a lot of ground to cover, and to include some site-specific content would be excellent. So there are a number of ways to become involved in the project, and we would love to have you be part of this first-of-its-kind exhibit. So again, if you're interested in this project, please connect with us. So we've set up an email, ans.seafaring@gmail.com, where you can reach us about the project. If you have any stories you want to share, or if you want to just connect with us and ask questions, or maybe you have a potential hosting venue in mind. There's also a Facebook group, African Nova Scotian Seafaring Project, where we encourage folks to share stories, images, and engage with one another. And we also have our website, ans-seafaring.com. So as the project continues to take shape, we look forward to connecting with you and creating this exhibit together. Thank you.
Thank you, Braden, and really appreciate those sentiments about the importance of this project. Another key part of this project is about capacity building. We wanted to develop a project that not only looked at the history, but also developed capacity within the African Nova Scotia community, in particular the heritage community. And for some information about that, I'm going to pull up my colleague here, Sal Fox, who has been the Assistant Curator and Registrar of the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic for just over a year. She joined the team after having an internship at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. She has previously worked with the historical interpretation and exhibit development of the Canadian National Vimy Memorial for Veterans Affairs Canada. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to build capacity within community with this project alongside of sharing some amazing history and content. Sal?
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining in person and online today. And thank you, Russell, for the introduction and sharing in this space this afternoon. And I also would like to extend thanks to Braden and to Adrian and to the support of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage, because without their hard work and dedication to this project, what I get to share next would not be possible. Thanks to this grant from the Culture Innovation Fund, on behalf of the Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage, we are hiring an African Nova Scotian historical researcher. As Adrian mentioned earlier, this individual will conduct primary source research on people of African descent living in Mi'kma'ki, who built vessels, owned them, and worked aboard them, but also those who worked within processing plants, fish box mills, and other associated industries. Although this individual who we hire will be independent in how they choose to conduct their research, they will work closely with our research committee, our exhibit development committee, and with our larger project steering committee to help guide the content creation for this traveling exhibit. The responsibility of this researcher will lie mainly in identifying significant stories, individuals, events, and time periods, and writing summaries of each. These summaries, along with their associated sources, will be compiled into a final report. The application process for this position can be found on our website. As Braden mentioned, that's ans-seafaring.ca, and that you'll find the entire full RFP posted there. For this position, no formal application will be required. Instead, we ask that you send us an email stating your interest, outlining who you are, your qualifications, your fees, and what prior experiences make you right for this project. We hope this application process allows emerging professionals in the history, sociology, anthropology, archaeology research fields, and others who have forged unique career paths the opportunity to outline their specific journey and how their skills could contribute to the project. It should be noted that although this position can operate remotely, travel to archives and other research spaces, as well as conducting oral history interviews in Nova Scotia, might be necessary and should be included in the researcher's fees. The deadline for submission is the end of May, so head on to our website and take a peek, and I hope you also share that with your network. To support the ideals of this project and our continued work to build relationships across communities to reflect the diversity of Nova Scotia in our work, we seek to build a team that reflects the diversity of Nova Scotians. And for this reason, this position has a priority designation for people who identify as African Nova Scotian, or Black, or of African descent. I'm very thrilled to finally share this opportunity with the public after, I think has been said, over a year of simmering with this idea, writing grant applications, and bringing together this ragtag team of folks. We can't wait to see who else will join our team and who else we can welcome into this project. As I said, we welcome you all to share this with your networks, and for any questions to be directed to the contact on our website. With that, I will pass it back to Russell for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Sal, for that. And the folks that have just spoke this afternoon, it's a remarkable accomplishment that we're all in the same space to work on this magnificent project. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a true collaboration between organizations, and I must say that it's created value in all of the work that we do each and every day to protect, preserve, and promote our heritage. And most importantly, it will elevate Black culture and heritage and awareness of Blacks in non-traditional roles. And so I'm looking forward to the day that we stand here and we open this exhibit and it starts traveling. And you know, we'll keep you up to date on the process as we go through. As mentioned, we have a website. There are some postcards here that will be given out that have the website information, but it's ans-seafaring.ca. And you can find the latest information of what's happening with the project. Again, I thank each and every one of you for being here this afternoon for this very special announcement. Remember to share the information in your respective communities and in your families about seafaring in the African Nova Scotia community, and share those stories with us. And we also would would be remiss if we didn't thank the government of Nova Scotia for their incredible contribution in keeping an important part of history alive. I leave with this quote from Marcus Garvey, and it says, "A people without knowledge is like a tree without roots." We have to be those people that have roots, that we have a history that is remarkable, and we have to share it. Have a great afternoon, everyone.